check out ESPN Film's newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
Always an honor and a privilege to have my next guest on, because as you know, when he arrives, it is time to talk football. He's a resident odd makers with the Associated Press, founder for pregame.com, resident handicapper right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Ready to start off the 2017 NFL season. His name is the one and only R.J. Bell, and he's on the line with us right now. What's going on, R.J., man? How you doing?
Stephen, it's good to be back. Football season is here. Let's do it.
Football season is here, no doubt about this. You talked about, before we get into the NFL stuff, what shocked you about last week? And I saw Howard, as a 45-point underdog beat UNLV. I saw Liberty, the paragons of virtue at Liberty University beat Baylor. College football's definition of Satan, for crying out loud, all the stuff that's been going on at that university. And then, the list goes on and on. We saw Texas A&M blow a 34-point lead to UCLA. What stood out in your mind about what happened in college football last week?
I think you touched on it. It was UNLV losing right here in Las Vegas, 45-point underdog. Now, that's obviously a really big number, but let's think about how big of an upset that is. The biggest upset ever. There's never been a college football game with a 40-point underdog that actually won the game. If you had bet just $100, right? Like you're tipping the valet, right? Imagine you just threw it on Howard. You would have won $55,000. 100 won you $55,000. It was that big of a long shot. By the way, this never happened. But if somehow it did, if you said Howard and then Liberty on a parlay, both of them have to win the game, $100 would have won you over $4 million. That shows you how unlikely those two upsets were.
Wow, R.J. Bell right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. You know what? Before we even get into these NFL games as well, Ezekiel Elliott, all of this stuff going on with him and his domestic violence situation with the National Football League that provoked them to suspend him for 6 games. He's appealed it. An arbitrator upheld the decision. Now it's going to the courts. We don't know what's going to happen. But they play Sunday night against the New York Giants, his Dallas Cowboy teammates. And I'm interested in knowing, how many points is Ezekiel Elliott worth? What would the Dallas Cowboys be going into this game if he were not playing compared to what they are now that we know he's playing?
A lot of people are going to be surprised by this one. He's worth about a half a point per game. So right now they're a 4-point favorite. Dallas is hosting the Giants. Without him, maybe a 3.5-point favorite. That's right. It. And it's not that Elliott, Stephen A., isn't really good. But wasn't Le'Veon Bell really good last year for Pittsburgh when he was suspended? Well, those adjustments were about a half a point per game. It really shows you that in the NFL, we know quarterback is king to a whole other level than any other position. But running back is, I don't want to say undervalued, just not very valued right now, especially, and I watch you pretty much every day on First Take, and I've heard you talking about it. The question is, how good is Elliott really relative to that offensive line for Dallas? How many running backs could put up really big numbers with that amazing offensive line? So I think most people think Elliott's really good. We can debate just how good. It doesn't matter. The best running backs, a half a point a game right now in the NFL.
Cowboys favored by 4 going into the Giants game Sunday night. Why is that?
Well, home field is 3, right? We always talk about that. So this is saying Dallas is a little bit better than the Giants, plus they have home field. I lean Giants here. My question is this. Elliott, the machinations, the back and forth, that cannot not be a distraction. It has to be a distraction. And you got to wonder physically, is he going to be there 100% with all the distraction? And then you think about the Cowboys at home. This is a team, last 40 times they've been a home favorite. They've only covered the Vegas spread 12 of the 40. Now, the Giants, they're a popular team, obviously a New York team. And if you look at their offense last year, it trended very poorly. Last 6 games of the year, they were scoring less than 14 points per game. So it's not that I love the Giants. I just think I'm getting more than a field goal, and that puts the value, in my opinion, on the Giants.
Raiders, 2.5-point underdogs at Tennessee. Why?
Well, Tennessee is one of the wise guy favorites. So we had the whole spring, the summer, for the bettors to bet Super Bowl futures, bet over-under win totals, all different ways who's going to win divisions. And Tennessee got so much professional support, a lot of optimism. Obviously, they've had amazing draft choices, or at least high-up draft choices. They got Mariota. How good are they going to be? A lot of optimism. On the other hand, the Raiders, check this stat out. This is almost hard to imagine. The worst 12-4 team in history, the Raiders last year, if you look at point differential. And I think that is very important to remember, is when you win a lot of close games, the record looks mighty good, but it's a lot of luck, right? If it's a 42-yard field goal at the end of the game, you make it, you win, you miss it, you lose. Are we really saying making or missing that means all that much? No, that was an even game. But the Raiders were so lucky, and I'll say it, lucky, winning those coin flips. Their record looks much better than I think they really were last year. And because of that, Tennessee is where the wise guys, they really like them against the Raiders.
Packers favored by 3, hosting the Seattle Seahawks, even after Seahawks got Sheldon Richardson. What's up with that?
Which I think Richardson for the season is a really nice pickup. Week 1, I'm not sure how much. Remember, back to home field. Home field's 3. I think Green Bay has the second best home field in the NFL. So their home field is a rare 4. They get an extra point. So now if the line's only 3, what does it say? It says Seattle is supposed to be the better team. And maybe I agree with that by a smidge. But you know what I know? Seattle is not a very good road team. They are great at home, probably the best. If I had to rank home fields, it's going to be Seattle 1, Green Bay 2. But if you go back to 2011 for Seattle, they've had a lot of good seasons since, obviously, right? Super Bowl appearances, Super Bowl victories. In all of those years, they're only one game, the Seahawks, above 500 on the road. So if you're winning Super Bowls and you're still 500 on the road, you're not a very good road team. Green Bay's a great home team. I think one of the better bets of the week, Green Bay laying only the field goal. By the way, Aaron Rodgers, this is his current streak. 37 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Wow. RJ Bell right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Steelers -9 at Cleveland. Why?
This is the trend game of the week. Now, think about this. They're on the road, Pittsburgh, and they're almost favored by double digits. That's some optimism with the Steelers. Obviously, Hayden at quarterback is a nice addition. That was the weak position for the Steeler team, that defensive backfield.
Right.
Here's the trend of the week, Stephen A. The Browns in season openers, and this is since the franchise resumed in 1999. So in 18 season openers, 1-17 straight up for the Browns, 4-14 against the spread. You could say, well, they weren't very good. They lost a lot of games. Well, the spread is supposed to equalize any team, no matter how bad they are, and they're still 4-14. So I think there's some logic behind this, which is Cleveland hasn't had good organization, good coaching, and week 1 is when the good coaches tend to excel because they've had the whole preseason to get ready. So I don't necessarily want to lay 9 with Pittsburgh, but no way am I betting the Browns in week 1.
Hey, well, we saw the best coach in the game struggle in week 1 with Bill Belichick last night. So
what you think? What do you think? What's your takeaway from that game?
I think injuries. I think that and the combination that they were feeling themselves and relaxing just a little bit, hearing all that talk in the offseason about how dynastic they may end up very well being. I think it got the best of them, and I think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady will definitely rectify that situation. I got to get ready to go, so I want to get to a couple of more games real quick, RJ. Eagles -1 at Washington. Why?
Eagles, another team. that's getting a lot of wise guy love. But think about the home field again. Now, if the Eagles are favored by 1 at Washington, that means if this game were in Philadelphia, the Eagles would be a 7-point favorite. I just don't think the difference between these teams is that much. And you could actually bet this game a month or two ago, and Washington was favored by 2.5. So I think there's a lot of love right now for Wentz and the Eagles. I just think this line has moved too much. I like the Skins as a home dog.
Cardinals favored by 2 at Detroit. I'm interested in this game because I want to see what Matt Stafford's going to do now that he's got this contract.
Yeah, well, Stafford, I mean, if you really look at the way that he's played since Jim Bob Cooter, I love saying it, I can't lie, became the OC about a year and a half ago, he's had amazing stats. Now, late last year, Stafford had a hurt hand, and it really affected his play. But here's what makes me like Arizona here, is Detroit trailed in every game except one in the fourth quarter. Think about that. If things would have went against them, now it would have taken a lot of bad luck. They could have been 1-15.
Right.
So I think it's back to those close games. Detroit got really lucky in those close games. You can say it's skill, but long term, no one tends to win close games more than any other team. So thus, I think in the end it evens out. I like Arizona, a small favorite at Detroit.
Los Angeles Rams plus 3.5 at Denver.
I tell you, I'm a little optimistic on the Rams, just a little bit. And here's the logic. They moved, obviously, from St. Louis last year, and it was a big distraction. People tend to underestimate these are human beings. They might be millionaires, but they still got to worry about their kids' school, and the wife has to find a new gym, and all those just reality of distractions. And I think the Rams, it should trend up this year. But we know, Stephen A., that this is a league of quarterbacks, and I am such a big skeptic of Goff that I'm not anxious to play the Rams really in any situation. I'm going to wait and see, but unless Goff shows me something very different than last year, I think he's one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the NFL.
Let me ask you this before I let you get on out of here. Well, speaking of worse, how can we negate talking about the New York Jets? Super Bowl odds out of Vegas, they are dead last, 1,000 to 1. The next best, 31st, is the 49ers at 455 to 1. The Jets are 1,000 to 1 in terms of Super Bowl odds. Are they really this bad? Have you seen something this bad in a long period of time?
So one thing we do in Vegas is have season win totals, over under a certain number of wins for the 16-game regular season. Right now, the Jets, season win total, 3.5. So if they win 4 games, if the Jets win 4 games, they've exceeded expectations. That's how low the expectations are. I actually like the over in that, and here's why. The narrative has started that the Jets are tanking. I don't believe NFL teams tank. And because we've seen so much in the NBA of tanking, I think people believe it. But, hey, listen, you've been on the sidelines, Stephen A. These guys, if you don't try 100%, you're going to get hurt. I think the Jets do better than people think. They're still a bad team, but I think they win 4 or 5 games, much more likely than 1, 2, or 3.
The founder for pregame.com, the official odds maker for the Associated Press, our resident handicapper right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, the one and only R.J. Bell. Always appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges?